Do you think goalkeepers tend to be mavericks? Do you think there's an element of that about being a goalkeeper? You've got Jens Lehmann, who's an interesting character. You've got Kepa at Chelsea and the things that have gone with him. You've got Peter Schmeichel, Oliver Kahn.
What's gone with Kepa?
Well, I suppose when you look at his behaviour on the pitch in the League Cup final, where he decided...
I can't see.
Well, tell me.
This fascinates me, right? Do I think, answer the question first, I don't think that goalkeepers are anywhere near as maverick as they used to be.
See, I remember watching John Burridge when I was a kid.
Doing handstands.
Doing handstands at Palace, absolutely. Yeah. And his whole personality was one steeped in eccentricity.
Yeah, and you don't see, and I don't think you see that anymore.
Is that because we've lost characters from the game, or it's just because,
I think in part, I think in part, a lot of the, I wouldn't say need. I think the individual characters, I think, have been taken out of players at a very early age. The way that the system is now,
right.
If you show the wrong traits as a youngster, you're probably less likely to be. I just got to defend Kepa here.
Go ahead.
This was a communication breakdown between a manager and a player. And that specific event, Kepa went down injured about 2 minutes earlier. Mm-hmm. And then the physio runs on and deals with him. 2 minutes later, they put him up, told him to bring him off. And he's like, no, I'm okay.
But there was a point where...
There was a point where the manager said, look,
like,
if we got
I still want you off, yeah.
Yeah, but the rules of the game, the player doesn't have to come off the field.
If he wants to be...
The player does not have to leave the field.
What if you're being substituted?
You do not have to leave the field.
Yeah, but David...
I know, but the point is that Kepa has just 2 minutes earlier...
Many things that players don't have to do.
2 minutes earlier, Kepa has gone down as if he was injured.
Yeah, but you can't defend that. You can't say, because there's a rule that suggests that you can go into a restaurant...
No.
There's a rule in life, you can go into a restaurant and not pay the bill if you don't feel like the food was valuable to it. But the point is, if you're a manager of a football team and you need to have some sort of authority over your players, and if you've decided, rightly or wrongly, that a player's got to come off, then you can't pull that one over the backside and say he doesn't have to come off.
However, with a few minutes left in a cup final, where emotions are all over the place, the fact that they haven't had a communication beforehand to let him understand that he will come off to let Caballero go and goal.
There was a point when the manager's running down the touchline and
tell the physio, go back on. Yeah.
There was a point where you're defending the indefensible there.
Well, I still think that Kepa seems to be the scapegoat for this when there was an opportunity.
I was using it to substantiate the argument and the debate that you goalkeepers are a bunch of loons you're mavericks and there's an eccentricity. And I think it doesn't mean that. I think maverick doesn't mean somebody that isn't inclusive or someone that isn't capable of being part of a group. I think it's someone that's quite unique. And someone that has different outlooks and dispositions and different approaches to life, because often the task that you guys have to fulfill is a very different one. Mm-hmm. You have to live with the consequences. If you make a mistake, it's a goal, it's a consequence, it's immediate, it's the ultimate outcome in football. Mm-hmm. If somebody else makes a mistake, it can have several other passages of play and several other situations that manifest itself before it delivers an outcome. Mm-hmm. So the pressure and the expectation and the lack of forbearance for a goalkeeper is far more significant, and that must play on the mindset of a goalkeeper. Do you think maverick is a negative?
No. But I think there was. I felt this for I want to say a while, however you define a while. You would look across the Premier League, let's say when I was playing, or years before that, and there was a clear difference between one goalkeeper and another, in some way or form. It was kind of like you could tell who you've got. Some with tremendous attributes in one area, some with tremendous in another. I think there's a quite prosaic look about goalkeepers in professional football now, and I think that needs to change.
What do you mean by that?
You basically put one in one goal or one in another, they're going to do the same thing.
You think that's the case?
I think
even with the evolution that people like Pep Guardiola have brought into goalkeeping and the change of direction and how much a component part of the goalkeeper.
That's one team.
But it's beginning to permeate, isn't it? I mean, we'll talk about the evolution of goalkeeping and the fact that David De Gea is coming under pressure because, potentially, allegedly, Ten Hag wants him to play in a certain way.
Play out the back.
Yeah.
The skill set, and I say this respectfully because in the end, for every goalkeeper who is still playing at the moment, they're asked to do something, and in the end, if you want the maverick, he's going to do something different, and something different doesn't help the team, supposedly. It's not difficult to receive a ball and pass it to one of your teammates.
I wouldn't have
effectively
thought so.
that is playing with your feet.
I would have thought so. I mean, I was going to address this later on in our discussion, but I've opened the door to it, so I might as well talk to you about the specifics and the evolution of a goalkeeper. Can you pick the differentiation between the mentality and the personality of a goalkeeper and that of outfield players?
The difficulty is what a lot of guys, and rightly so, have developed is the ability to not show any emotion on a football field.
Right.
I think this was, and again, sort of thing about my upbringing. If I wasn't happy, I wasn't happy. If I wasn't happy in a warm-up, then I would tell the guy doing my warm-up that I wasn't happy.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard.
Yeah.
You talked about not showing emotion. And I'm just going to leap in there and talk about Jordan Pickford, because he's the polar opposite of that, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't know Jordan personally, so I can only speak from what I see. There's a question whether the emotion or whether it's part of the theatrics, like a reflex, if you like. Actually being emotional about something and showing your unhappiness thing. I think you can separate to a point. And what I always say when I watch Jordan Pickford is, especially for England, if this guy's going emotional behind you, everyone in front of him knows that he's doing it. Everyone on that England team knows what he's doing. And it's the moment that he stops doing it is when they get worried.
Right.
This has been an exceptional goalkeeper for England.
Because it was the observation about Joe Hart as well, wasn't it? That Joe was a little bit like that and a little bit out of control in a couple of the England games where people saw him in the tunnels and thinking, the hell, that kind of behaviour, you're looking like you're not in control of yourself, and that doesn't fill people with any confidence.
Well, we all want, I think I say we, in football, all you want is consistency.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And if you're consistently going mad,
I get that. Yeah,
Razor was the best at Liverpool. I used to be shouting at him non-stop, and if he stuck his finger up at me, then I knew he heard me.
Yeah,
I didn't need him to turn around and say, "Jamo, what you're saying is right." I just needed a response. And once he said, I was like, "Oh, cool."
And Neil was consistent at Palace, consistently in the canteen. That's where Neil was consistent there.
Okay.
Don't worry, I'll say it to him, so you're not going to be betraying any confidences or relationships with friends. Talking about playing out from the back, being good with your feet, and you just talked about it in the most basic of terms, because I'm a bit like you, I think, in the fact that I think there's a lot of mythologies being deployed for football now. People talking in these highfalutin terms that gives them an opportunity to justify their existence in the first place. Do you think you, as a goalkeeper, would thrive in? I mean, you've been finishing now for about 13, 14 years.
Wow.
Right, isn't it? You finished when you're 39, didn't you?
9 years ago, actually, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, in Premier League football.
Oh, no, yeah, that's fine.
Right.
I was slightly dismissed as Bristol City.
No, all right, due respect. But yeah, fair
IBV,
enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly like Steve Lansdown, so I'm quite happy to be dismissive of Bristol City. But as I said, do you think you would thrive under the current perception of goalkeepers and what they've got to do? Because Ederson is quite remarkable, isn't he, in terms of his ability to distribute a ball? I mean, he is as good as any player I've seen knocking 50-yard balls to where people want them.
I go back to Paul Barron. He got a kicking coach in Aston Villa.
Right.
And I said, why do I need a kicking coach? I can kick the ball 60, 70 yards anyway. I went with a kicking coach, and after 2 sessions, he revolutionised the way I played football. Left foot, right foot. I was picking players out 50 yards, 60 yards. We weren't asked to play out the back because the teams I played in didn't play that kind of football. And what people don't understand, and Jordan Pickford made it very clear to me once after analysing his game once, when he was at Sunderland, is that it's not just about the goalkeeper being able to pick a ball up, because it is very simple. You pass the ball to me, I pass the ball over there.
Yeah.
That's not difficult. I'm not being asked to pick the ball up, do a step over and take you on, or anyone on. Just get it and pass to someone else. If the person you're passing to is not good on the ball, you're going to lose possession and concede goals. And as Jordan said, I can't pass to my defenders because they're no good on the ball, so he kicks the ball long.
Right.
So I could have learnt how to play, but I would have needed a team around me that would have been able to play. And this is where Ederson becomes very good, because he can pass to any one of his fullbacks, centre-backs. They're as good as midfield.
So he's in a fortunate position, isn't he?
He's got the right team around him.
So is the answer to the question?
Yes, I would
is that a goal? First of all, yes, you could, but a goalkeeper's ability to play out is only as good as the people he's playing out to.
Absolutely.
So it's an unfair analysis to talk about goalkeepers' inability to play out.
It's a cheap cliche which people don't even think about when they use.
Right. because obviously the observations have been made recently. Because I've sort of pushed back on it and suggested that I think coaches should coach, and if a player can't do something, they should be coached into being able to do it. Because actually, there's a level of natural ability, and then there's a level of discipline which gets you to the next level, right? And if David De Gea, if David De Gea was playing for Pep Guardiola would make him play out from the back rather than all of a sudden go back to
No, he wouldn't. Joe Hart.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because if the argument is that Joe Hart, if the argument is that the defenders at Man City were good enough to be able to receive a ball, and ultimately the goalkeeper had that luxury, why was Joe Hart just bombed?
Well, I will defend Pep simply because he's just won a treble.
Yeah, it's an easy defence.
Plus a few other trophies on the way. And his decision, therefore, as we sit here, was always correct. I think Joe was an opportunity to show that he was the boss.
Do you?
I think so, more than anything, because again, it's slightly paradoxical, isn't it, that Pep turns all these players into something different and more magnificent,
something better.
Yes, or magnificent in John Stones' case.
Fair enough. And better in Jack Grealish's.
Yes. Yet Joe Hart wasn't given an opportunity.